Hello and welcome to everybody here live in the Genius Metaversity within the metaverse. Um, Thank you all, wherever you are in the world. I'm out here in Phu Quoc, Vietnam, and I know that people are joining from all over the globe here in the metaverse. Um, as you may know, Roger has been joined by some really stellar guests in this series of masterclasses, and today is really no exception. Um, Roger's going to be joined on this session by Marisa Murgatroyd. Marisa's the founder of Live Your Message and the creator of the Experience Product Masterclass. Now, here at Genius U, Entrepreneurs Institute, we've been working with Marisa and Live Your Message for quite a long time now, a number of years. So I'm personally really thrilled to see her on this call with Roger today. The title of the call is Unlocking Online Course Success, Transforming Knowledge into Profitable Results. Now, I'm absolutely certain that Marisa will have some gems and nuggets to share with Roger. So if everybody's ready here in the metaverse, I think I'm ready to hand over to Roger, and I'll see you at the end of the session.
Hi, it's Roger Hamilton with another of our incredible Genius Metaversity Masterminds. And today I have got Marisa Murgatroyd with me. Hello, Marisa. How are you?
I am very good. How are you?
I'm awesome. And I'm super looking forward to this whole session where we're going to dive into online courses, what's been happening in the world, best strategies, and how to maximize things in a world which is changing fast. So why don't we kick it off as I basically I'm going to be sharing a couple of slides here to get started, and they're going to be really giving a bit of a taste for everyone who's coming on here as to what we are going to be covering with Marisa. Talking about specifically unlocking online course success, transforming knowledge into profitable results, and we are doing this both on YouTube as well as live in the metaverse with our mastermind members. And Marisa, you've been in our community for some time. We have met multiple times. And at the same time, you've been growing your business incredibly using some of our tools like Wealth Dynamics as well. I'd love for you to maybe just start with a bit of an origin story of how we both got connected originally and then how you've been evolving your company.
Yeah, 100%. So I've been a business coach for about 12 years. And in those 12 years, as you can imagine, I've had well over 12,500 students that I've coached directly. And what I started to realize is that not all strategies work for all people, and that the best way to create wealth and create success is to really follow your path of least resistance and greatest reward and follow your design as an entrepreneur. So I was playing around with this concept, which might sound familiar because it's a concept that I know Roger believes in. And he and I are like brothers from another mother because we're both half Asian. We've got all these commonalities. And when we talked, we're like, whoa. And so I found Wealth Dynamics because I was looking at a lot of different kinds of assessments, and some of them are really hard to understand and hard to map over to your path as an entrepreneur. But Wealth Dynamics is very simple to understand, even though it's got a lot of complexity and depth in it. And it's very easy to see how it might impact your business model, your marketing model. And so in my program, we give our students the Wealth Dynamics, and then we assign them a coach that shares a similar profile as them. And we advise them on choosing their business models and marketing models based on their design as a human being and how they're more likely to succeed. And so I started using the tool and I had bought like, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of licenses from Roger. And then a mutual friend, we were both speaking at an ed tech conference in San Diego, and I knew he was going to be there. And so I just rocked on up to him and was like, hey, and it turned out we had a lot in common. And that was the beginning of us kind of jamming together and a lot more things.
Very cool. Very cool. And if you can also share with everyone based on where things started for you and how things evolved. I mean, like when I met you, it was at your house, you were about to go on a round the world trip. You've kept a really tight team and high revenues, high profits. Like just from the point of view of anyone who's wondering whether or not course creators can make it into the multiple millions at the moment and actually be successful while also living the lifestyle they want. you want to just share how
Yeah.
many years you've been evolving and really where things are right now? What's your life look like? How much revenues you're generating as a result of all the activity you're doing, and even the size of team, the fact that this can be done really effectively, especially as AI starts becoming more and more effective as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, I will say that this is $1 billion a day industry, online courses and online education. I believe that the lion's share of all learning in the future will happen online. And so it's such a huge industry that in the next decade, it's expected to skyrocket to $1 trillion, right? Versus $1 billion a day. So it's huge. And this next decade is when everything is going to change. However, what you see happening on the one hand is this gigantic opportunity. On the other hand, only 3% of traditional courses get people results. So there's this massive, massive market opportunity. And I will share in a little bit some of the ways to maximize that opportunity and stand out from all these AI generated courses, because I don't think they're going to be able to compete, to be quite honest. It's not that you can't use AI, but the way people are doing courses with AI is not effective. So I've brought in over $40 million with online courses over the last decade. And of course, the trajectory has been a lot like this. And so we got to the point of about $8 million a year with online courses. And I do have, a significant team right now. I've got about 30 people, and we've got a bunch of coaches who help facilitate. I will say that I do a lot more for my students than a lot of other people do, meaning that you can keep it really lean and you can kind of have hundreds, thousands of students with just you. Or what we like to do is we have coaches, we match coaches to people, we give a lot more value add than an average online course, which is, I think, one of the reasons we're doing so well and one of the reasons we're able to compete against the information dump courses that are flooding the market. But my husband Murray and I just got back from 2.5 weeks traveling all around Europe. We have this home based here in Austin, Texas, and we're about to acquire another home base or two around the world. So we can kind of just keep, having a life where we get to have new inputs and see different things. And I'm a very high creator, off the charts creator. Roger knows that I'm all creator star mechanic and absolutely nothing else, so it's actually breaking out of the little box. Yes.
We're also similar in that regard as well.
So for me to be able to just, see new things and create new things, and also to be able to create at scale, that's one of the things that I love. Is I always like having bigger stages and bigger canvases, and to be able to design and then to watch people go through it and to watch how it can impact people's lives, and then make a little adjustment and they get better results and they're happier and they're more excited. And then I get to kind of stand back. I kind of talk about being like the game master in the Hunger Games, but instead of creating these experiences designed to make people fail, I'm actually tinkering and creating experiences designed to make people succeed. And that's really fun, to give someone something right at the moment they might be struggling the most. And that's one of the ways that technology can be really beneficial. How do you support people right at the moment they would otherwise fail to keep going and keep succeeding? And the reason I got hooked on this whole concept is when I was in the early days of course creation, I was watching my students fail, and I was watching them refund, and I was watching them drop out. And I couldn't do that. Like, that's not the reason I got into course creation and coaching and helping people. And I went up to a colleague and I said, are people buying your courses and then not completing them? And she said, well, yes, but maybe those people aren't meant to succeed. And I think that mentality of a lot of education and a lot of online courses to just leave behind the vast majority of people coming in is completely broken. And we've got the tools,
that's actually the whole, that's the whole point, the destructive point of the bell curve within education, where effectively it's not working if there aren't people failing. I mean, that's basically the whole concept of standardized testing, which is so much madness, because at the end of the day, there's an ability for everyone to be able to succeed in their own particular way, right? So I love the way you're talking about that. And of course, this is exactly why gamification is so important, right? Which is what you've been bringing in, is what Murray's an expert in, you become an expert in as well. I want everyone to really get like what Marisa is saying, which is talking about information dump courses. Like, it's not the information which is going to engage your your members or your students is going to be the inspiration, and more importantly, their own personal inspiration as well, right? So here's what we're going to do, because Marisa, I want to jump right into this, and you are the best person to speaking to right now, for the reason that we're actually in the middle of starting the World Game, which is a gaming in itself as well, right? So here's what I want to do is give everyone a sneak peek on what we're going to cover in the period of time we have together. I'm going to break it into 3 pieces, right? There's going to be one piece when we're going to be jumping into some of the key insights that Marisa has found in the way that she's built her business. And these are links to the slides where you can see Marisa's bio, what she's been covering, and what she also is going to be covering here. You're going to have on these slides, and there's going to be links in here as well. So the 3 critical elements that will transform your online business, like what are the specific things? What do you mean by experienceify? Like, what does it mean to create an experience versus just creating a course? And then this first section where we're going to be covering some of the highlights, what I'd like to do is actually jump to the next version, which is something that we're doing right now within Genius Group, because we have got Jason Hange, who is our head of product now. He's built $3 billion products. They're all marketplaces. He's done it for Amazon. He's done it for Expedia. He's also done it for Walmart. But the biggest thing that he brought to all 3 of them is gamification, right? And it's really interesting because you don't really think that when you go to Amazon, you're playing a game, but it's actually hitting on all the same dopamine fixes. It's going through all the same steps that you will find that Marisa's speaking about. And what's been really interesting that we've been doing recently is basically linking the whole model of something called the Octalysis, which the founder of the Octalysis will give you the link to his platform as well. It's being used. I will give you a link also to Marisa's platform, and we'll see a little bit about this online course creator archetype later. So everyone here can go and actually take a test to take you on the right path for you as well. But Yukai Chow, who came up with this a long time ago, like a decade ago, at that point, I wasn't really aware of what the Octalysis was. It's been used for all the biggest games out there. So if anyone has kids playing Roblox or Fortnite, it's all been using Octalysis. But what's really interesting about Octalysis is that there are 8 game dynamics, which are the things that we're putting into Genius Group right now, which actually link directly to the 8 different profiles. So Creator is all about epic meaning, and Star is all about empowerment, and Support is all about social influence, Lord is all about ownership, etc. And we're going to cover some of this, and I'd love to be able to hear Marisa's thoughts as to which ones she feels are most important, which ones she focuses at most in the way that she's building things. And then we're going to go to the third part, which is where we're going to be covering the whole aspect of how you make this personalized for yourself. And we've got a free guide and also a free course quiz that you can take to find out exactly what your archetype is. Final thing I want to mention, right, because we're also at the end going to actually have our Shine Awards taking place for our mastermind group. What I also want to say is that we have just run our partner conference. And one of the things that we announced at the partner conference is, given that we are now only 2 to 3 years away from the singularity, I mean, that's pretty much the prediction of everyone from Elon Musk through to Ray Kurzweil, we are basically in what Buckminster Fuller called the final exam. And the only way for us to really harness the technology that's coming our way, the massive download of exponential technology growth in AI and in AR, is really by playing the world game, which allows us to ourselves have fun, if you know the rules, and then go out there and make a difference. And one of the things that, if you missed this, we'll give you the link to it. You can see that basically we have got not just the details of Jason and what he's now doing with our online platform and how we're upgrading it using AI, but also how we are now building out the full world game, which enables all of our partners to actually come on board, take a city, take a different part of the world game, and then play it, where we are going to be giving impact meals to feed those who are part of the 100 Billion Meals Challenge. This is Tony Robbins' challenge. We're working with Joel Jarvis on this, and then we have all the mentors coming and joining us, people like Peter Diamandis, people like Joe Polish, to be part of lifting the consciousness of the world through the world game. So effectively, we're gamifying how we can actually make an income and impact at the same time. And the final thing I'll share is that there are some super awesome things happening around the world of AI that I know some of you know we are now linking together with Groove Digital so that we can have our own Genius AI platform. And this allows us to be able to have all the drag and drops that enable us basically to gamify all the different steps of how you build a course. So the things you're going to hear about here are things that we are now applying directly on the platform as well. So a lot is happening. And for that reason, I am super excited to be speaking with you, Marisa, about what you've learned as the top key things that make an experience different from just a basic information course, right, in the way that you're doing it.
100%. Well, love that, because Yukai just hosted me for his audience and Groove is hosting me for their audience too. And Yukai's on our
It's a
board of
small world,
advisory.
right?
I know. So all the same people that we're connected to for sure. Well, first of all, I ran off while you were talking to get this. This is how information products and courses used to be made. Inside, you're going to see these cassette tapes. Aren't these awesome? And yeah, and look at this. Look at this. Power copywriting for the internet. This is how courses used to be made. And what I'll say is that the vast majority of courses are still actually made in the same way, except rather than sending you a binder with cassette tapes and physical paper, they're doing the same thing on the side of a membership site. Is that making sense? Because a lot of people think that it's just about information, but the truth is, if information alone changed our lives, we'd all be living in Googletopia, if you think about it, right? We'd have our perfect bodies, we'd have the loves of our lives, we'd have millions of dollars flowing out of our bank accounts, because we'd have already done everything that we want to do in life, because we could just go out there, look at the information and change our lives like that, right? But it doesn't quite work like that, does it? Right? We know what we need to do, but sometimes we can't get ourselves to do it. We have this resistance. We have this kind of internal block from doing the things that we want to do, because information alone doesn't change our lives. So you need to build a course around two specific things, especially if you want to compete from all the courses that are flooding the market. So right now, Khan Academy gives education away completely for free. Masterclass.com, $10 a month, but really they only offer annual plans because people cancel from that stuff really quickly. Even information from famous people doesn't interest us. So what does interest us? We want to get results in our lives. We want to change something. We want to reach an outcome. We want to, feel something different. We want to do something different. We want to solve a problem. We want to get a result, right? So results are one of the key things that you have to design your course around. And the other thing that AI can't do is experiences. And I've got a lot of examples of experiences that you can create for people, even peak emotional experiences that take learning out of the brain and creates like a holistic, dynamic experience that engages all aspects of someone. So then they can almost reframe and see something for themselves rather than just being told something. Make sense? So it's the difference between being told something and actually seeing and discovering it for yourself for the first time. And so what I've been working on is a series of experiences. This is the experience formula, and we're actually dropping a link where you can go and download all the free resources that I'm giving around this that includes gamification, but it goes beyond gamification into psychology, which is how do you get someone to take action to change their lives, even when they feel resistance, even when it gets tricky, and even when it gets challenging. And I'm going to kind of start with the beginning and the end, and then we can kind of talk about some of the stuff in the middle. Because the very first thing that you want to do is people can't say yes, they can't feel like they're winning if they don't know what winning looks like. Am I right? And so I always talk about having a clear mission to your course. And the mission isn't your mission. It's not what you want. The mission is what you're inviting your students to do. It's the journey that they are saying yes to. And I've got so many examples from hundreds, thousands of students who simply by having a mission that promised what I call a photo finish. So by a photo finish, it means that it's so clear and so specific, you can actually photograph someone crossing the outcome. And that's the difference. So let me give you an example from my student, Helmet. And I should probably look up the exact example because it's kind of amazing. So Helmet came to me with a course about spirituality, right? And as you can imagine, trying to have a photo finish for spirituality doesn't feel like it's really possible. Am I right? And he actually had a program that took 17 years to complete because he learned it from a series of spiritual teachers coming out of the Amazon. It was a tradition that took 17 years to learn. And I'm like, Helmet, you can't offer something to someone that's going to take them 17 years to complete. And I understand. It's not going to be like people saying yes all the time to this, right? So I understand that. And so what I did is I helped him craft a photo finish, right? And so what I said is, yeah, maybe it takes a long time to integrate things like the feeling of universal love, right? But could you feel that for a fraction of a second, in just 6 weeks? He says, well, yeah, you could touch it, you could glimpse it. I said, well, that's what we're going to wrap the photo finish around. So let me go ahead and read the mission statement. And it goes like this. And you'll, in just 6 weeks, receive the 4 essential gifts that every human needs to feel whole, loved, and on path. The gift of knowing your truth, the gift of connecting to your life energy, the gift of a quiet mind, and the gift of opening to the infinite. And now, even though these were 4 virtual shamanic ceremonies, he could imagine receiving these 4 gifts. So he went out there and he emailed 18 people about it, and he got 21 sales. So he made $16,000 just like that, because now, rather than selling spiritual transformation and enlightenment, people were understanding that they were getting these gifts, right? And that these gifts were the things that they wanted. They could now picture it. They could visualize it. And then even the delivery of this program is this sharing of the gifts. Does it make sense? So it makes everything tangible and specific. You can see the transformation. You can see the outcome. You can actually take a picture of that. Now, when you can take a picture of the finish line, then the entire program is based on the finish line and getting someone to what I call mission accomplished. And then you can reward and you can, give incentives for people crossing mission accomplished. So, for example, one of my students, Beata Palya, who's a singer based in Hungary, she has a course about helping people write and perform their soul song. And she's performed on stage at Carnegie Hall. She's been in like movies like Django, in Hollywood, and she's done all of this stuff. But she tried to give people all of her singing and songwriting expertise. And they were like, whoa, no can do. This is way over my head. And so we restructured the entire program around people performing their soul song at the end of the program. And now, instead of everyone dropping out, 40 out of 43 students said yes. And as soon as they finished that, they started referring people. She's got like 12 people signed up for her course, or 17 or something, before she's even opened doors. And it's a couple $1,000 or $1,700 to complete. And they all want to continue their journey with her. So you want to have this moment of mission accomplished, which is like, summiting Everest, right? Where there's this moment where it's not just the small wins that people have been getting all the way along, but it's the big win that the entire course culminates towards. So when you have this structure, mission and mission accomplished, then everything else is designed to slingshot as many people as possible from mission to mission accomplished by creating what I call experience escalation. And this is when you stack these core experiences, people start to get hooked on taking action, hooked on the way they feel in your programs, and wanting to move forward more and more. Some of them involve gamification. Go ahead.
If I could dive in a little bit as well, because for everyone who, I don't think anyone can listen to what you just said and go, okay, that doesn't not make sense. Like, of course, those would be good things to do. Maybe I'm doing some of the things already. What I really like about your model and how you created it, and I'm just going to share this for a moment. I know we're going to give the link for everyone, but the actual fact that you just put it on one sheet, make it super simple, but you've also got next to the experience formula, the anti-experience formula, right? So I think this is the biggest thing that is a big aha for a lot of people. When you're talking about a mission, right? The opposite of that, too many masters, or mission accomplished, like ending with a whimper, right? Like the fact that most people are, without realizing it, actually turning they're not only not escalating, they're actually going the opposite. They've got a vicious spiral downwards, where if they haven't lost them at the beginning, they're going to lose them very quickly before they even get further down the line, which is why such a tiny percentage of people actually complete these online courses, right? Because they haven't got those experiences. Even things like, constant wins, where you can break it down into smaller pieces, right? Feedback loops. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the fact that every one of them has got something which is the opposite. I'd love for you to just share a bit about that, so people realize this is not just a nice to have, it's actually a must have, because if you don't get this, you're probably going to be doing the opposite.
100%. Well, just looking at this idea of mission, I always give the example of what not to do is masterclass.com. So masterclass.com has done 3 rounds of layoffs in the last year. And honestly, I have had my eye on them for years, because I'm like, how in the world, are they doing what they do? So they just get big famous people and do really fancy production. And then they try to get as many people as possible into the model. But the courses are things like Chris Hadfield teaches space exploration. So how do you know when you've crossed that finish line? How do you know when you've crossed the finish line of space exploration? Do you actually need to go into space in order to say yes? They've got Serena Williams teaches tennis. All right, well, how do you know when you've crossed that finish line? When you know everything that Serena knows about tennis? Absolutely not. So this model is all about information transfer. Like I said, it's basically the digital version of this. And so what happens is people are just trying to share everything that they know about a topic because that's what they think a course is. And if you look at how we were educated in school, that was a form of education that was actually birthed in the Industrial Revolution. So people just needed the skills to become good factory workers, right? And that was the kind of goal in life. And now we live in this incredibly rich, dynamic environment where we need to understand resilience, we need reinvention, we need agility, we need to use kind of our aptitude in completely different ways than they were ever used before. And so all of these things, like too many masters, which is what happens in school. You go from one subject to the next subject, to the next subject, to the next subject. You get a little bit of everything. And for many people, people drop out of school. They don't complete it. They get left behind. I was a star student, but I was threatened not to graduate because I skipped school and go to the jazz festival in New Orleans because it was way much more interesting to me, right? And so even the good students like me, the Ivy League students, just couldn't, bear to sit in school all day, right? So all of these things, like rather than understanding why you're doing something in a picture of your life that's going to happen when you actually cross the finish line, people are just being dropped into the how hole. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And they haven't even bought into the vision of why they would want to learn something. So all of this is what's happening in the traditional courses. And like I said, just like the core experiences stacked together to create that experience escalation that slingshots people so they're gaining unstoppable momentum, even these small negative experiences start to stack, and then people feel overwhelmed. They feel frustration. They feel despair. They start to be like, why even bother? I'm not going to finish, or I'm not seeing results. So there's a cycle that they get into, which is work, give up, versus what I call the action reward cycle, where you take an action, you win, you take another action, you win again. And then if you're able to sequence those actions. So people start with small, simple actions with small rewards, and then you ramp them up into larger actions and larger rewards. That's when they get into this almost like flow channel, according to some of the flow research, where the challenge is commensurate to their skill. And you drop them in here with low skill and low challenge, and then you ramp them up to higher skill and higher challenge and higher skill and higher challenge. So before you know it, people are doing things that they never thought possible. And they couldn't imagine that they could do this at the start. So you're actually building people's confidence. You're ramping them into larger and larger actions. They become unrecognizable to themselves, and they find themselves gaining momentum. So it's easier to keep going than it is to stop. So some of that is the gamification, like the constant wins where, they check something off. It's like cha-ching, cha-ching, they can get rewards and prizes for that. That's something that we do in our membership site platform, but it also gives you intel into what people are doing and what people aren't doing. And that's really powerful as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question just around how you stack not just this pathway, but how you do it from product to product, and then also at the same time, for everyone who's watching here, many of the members we have are our faculty members as well. So they're actually running their own courses as well. I wanted to just share basically, how we're thinking about the actual pathway of what do you charge for, given that content's going down for free. As you say, there's people like the Masterclass or the Udemy model, which is very much trying to go down to the lowest common denominator, while others, like Coursera, are trying to go B2B now. They're all trying to figure it out because engagement hasn't gone to where they want it to go. In our case, we basically have designed out the full pathway into a freemium moving to a premium, where there are certain products that will be just like either free or moving into something that becomes a paid membership of some sort. But at the higher level, you do have people who are getting masterminds, who are doing MBAs, at the $5,000, $10,000, even $30,000 level. And this applies across the board. In your model and the way that you've designed it, this would obviously be walking through even at the free level in terms of basically where people are actually getting hooked in and going, okay, I'm now motivated to be learning, and I'm actually getting these constant wins. And of course, we see this with all the games out there, Fortnite, Roblox, they all start free. And then at some point, people are then willing to pay to either accelerate or for high level experiences as well. How do you look at the optimum stacking of different programs? Do you follow all the way through on free, and then if people want to go to high level, or at some point along here, do you say, okay, if you want to go further, you should charge? And what have you learned has worked best in recent times?
Yeah, so this is a model that I teach my students. It's the customer journey. This is right. And so what I do is there's like an on-ramp here. And the on-ramp is solving a particular problem and delivering a result. So even here, you want a clear mission and mission accomplished state in your free gift. So a lot of times people think, let me just give like whatever dump onto my students, but you want to get them a result. So things like challenges, expiring mini courses, all the different things that you do to get someone a result. And then once they have the result, they see what I call the new bigger problem, right? So a lot of times it's a higher class problem. And then that's what your offer does. And you sequence people from, saying yes to a solution, to delivering a result, to having a new bigger problem because you've delivered that result. And you can kind of build, like if you have this built out, I mean, it's the basis of an 8-figure business, right? Now, one of the things that we do to kind of integrate our programs is this is what we call the Win the Game of Business box, that we send out to our students. So when they actually achieve the first result in one of our courses here, you can actually see the customer journey. So you can see the journey from, say, just getting started, not even knowing what your business is about, to earning your wings by making your first dollar, to taking flight by getting to, up to $30,000 a year, then up to consistent income, then gaining leverage with, 1 to few programs, and scaling with 1 to many programs, and then building this unstoppable momentum to an authority level business. So our programs actually scale people up from just beginning to becoming this global authority with an 8-figure business. So we have $1 million business owners. We have brand new business owners who've never made $1 before. And what we do is they hit these goals, right? Is we send them their pins, So they actually have this trajectory, and it's their journey in their business, but it's also their journey with our company. So that's one of the ways that we're gamifying between our individual programs. And it's really about, if you go and you climb a mountain, a lot of times you see the next peak off in the distance, right? That you couldn't see from the ground level necessarily. So that's kind of what it is. You provide the transformation to people, and then they're going to want to buy from you again. And there's a lot of different ways you can kind of connect the different programs. So my repeat sale rate is 47%. So when I started doing this, it was 22% of people bought more than one thing from me. Now it's 47%, and I think about $5,700. So the average person who comes into our world invests $5,700 in our company. And it's great because I started out with $500 in repeat sales, and repeat sales are 16 times more profitable and 12 times easier to get than regular sales. So many people are trying to optimize their front end funnels for like a 1% lift. But if you're able to get 10 to 30 times more people to mission accomplished, then what you're going to see with repeat sales and lifetime customer value is just huge. And so simply by focusing on getting people's results, but also creating these extraordinary experiences for them so they want to keep coming back, it really changes the game.
Yeah, definitely. And more of education and learning is going to lifelong learning anyway, right? So to have a pathways where someone can go, hey, I've got an ongoing pathway that can continue potentially for many, many, many years. And I'm right here and I can see where I am on the map and where I'm going. And for everyone to choose where they're going as well. I think this is the power of AI. It's not in generating the content, even though you can use it for that, but then you end up with too much content, and all content is going for free anyway. But if you actually are using AI to personalize and to direct people on what the next path would be, that's obviously what all of the biggest gaming companies use it for at the moment already, including companies like Amazon, which is gamifying retail itself. This is where I think is super interesting because it kind of like links between, the world you've been developing and living in and what we have been evolving on our side. We just actually shared at our event last week that we now have got effectively the beginnings of what is our this is our 3D space, which is basically designed as a Metaversity 2.0, where we've got an investor campus, we've got an entrepreneur campus, we've got a genius school campus, and one for the university as well. And what's super exciting about this is because we're taking the same kind of basics of kind of ancient truths that people like Leonardo da Vinci got created as well. This has been designed. Oops, let me just go back here. This has been designed so that you can kind of teleport to anyone's world anywhere. So anyone's classes, even if it's in 2D. And you can see here that it's actually designed as a spaceship around the Earth. And you can see down here it's all from the Atlantica, which is Da Vinci's most famous work. And there's his Vitruvian Man. that you can actually see all the different elements. And all of this effectively then becomes effectively its own metaversity for learning anywhere in the world that you can actually then go teleport, time travel to, but all of it is experience at that point as well. And everything that we basically are launching now, which is going from 2D to 3D and into that whole interactivity that already is in online gaming, and bringing it to learning. What's super exciting about all of this is the way that, already if you were to take, this whole ideas we talked about with Octalysis, and the fact that experiences are what actually binds us in the real world, and these different elements, I already can pick up the different pieces from what you're sharing. And we do a lot of this within our own courses, where we'll run the micro degrees. We're about to run our masters in Bali. We have a competition there. There's always a winner. We will start, everyone's competing. There's awards. And we're constantly looking at ways to recognize, which is very much the Blaze energy, right? Social influence or empowerment. But also, unpredictability is a really difficult thing to do if you just hard-coded a website, but it's very easy to do if you've actually got multiple trees that lead off it. And then basically the whole idea of avoidance and scarcity, which is very much down at the kind of trader and scarcity, especially if there's only so many people that can come join. This is the reason people go join fan clubs or go and get exclusivity with the people they want to listen to. Ownership, which is obviously when you start adding information in, then it becomes more and more a reason to come back again and again. And then accomplishment, where exactly everything, as you say, mission accomplished at the end. The epic meaning part is super interesting, and I think it's really, it's where you start as well, right? And actually explaining the whole experience formula to begin with, and it's also where you'll find, Yukai Chao also starts with the whole idea of epic meaning. And one of the most important things today, right? This is something that we actually shared on our session that we just had, is the fact that Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, now is the time more than ever when the world needs heroes, right? And so this whole idea that everyone can go on their own hero's journey, and we're saying, instead of everyone being divided by their differences, we need to be thinking about being united by our uniqueness, which is a very, very, very different thing. And what's really interesting about this pathway is how, these steps of the hero journey they're very close to the way that you've designed out your journeys as well. And so again, so much in parallel, but so much about where the world needs less victims, more heroes as of today as well. I'd love for you to just share in what way you have integrated, because I'm going to be sharing a lot more about the 8 profiles and how different profiles actually get turned on by different things. Some people want more recognition, some people want more accomplishment, some people actually respond more to scarcity than others. Just from your point of view, how you have been using the Octalysis in the way that you've been thinking about your own experience design.
Yeah, 100%. So it's funny because I had created this before I fully dove into and discovered Yukai's work, but there's so much overlap because when you look at it, it's all based on science, which is the science of what drives us forward. How do you work with the neurochemistry in our brains to get people so excited and understanding, what Yukai does is he talks about there's white hat and there's black hat, like the top of the Octalysis is white hat, meaning it's not that anything is unethical, but it's drawing on our highest desires and aspirations as humans, whereas the bottom is drawing more on the amygdala and the fear and the more lizard brain, if that makes sense. But also,
in a way, the mobile world has gone more and more into dark hat without really spending so much time here, whereas kids are spending a lot more time in gaming, where they're getting a lot more of the top part here than and of course the bottom comes with it as well. But what you just said there, hopefully for many people here, they'll realize, it's not about getting your kids off everything, it's just getting them off certain social media and getting their learning to be more gamified, right?
Right. So a lot of people make the mistake with gamification of thinking it's just about points and it's just about leaderboards or it's just about scarcity or urgency or whatever it happens to be, which is that bottom half of Octalysis. But what will happen is people will start getting pissed off at the end of the day and being like, wait, they feel out of control. And they'll just be like, I'm just going to, what's the word? Unsubscribe from my phone or deinstall the app right from my phone. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to take out my subscription to Netflix, whatever it happens to be. But when you're able to balance our highest desires as humans with some of the gamification. So first of all, you're applying gamification, you're applying Octalysis, you're applying the experience formula to something that people want to achieve in their lives. Make sense? You're not applying it to having someone waste their time on Candy Crush. You're actually applying the same tools that they use in Silicon Valley, apps and games, but to how do we use this to achieve our goals as a human, our highest aspirations, especially when we get stuck, and how do we overcome the resistance and the friction and keep on going. So that in and of itself, when you do that in a course, is putting you up in that top half of the octalysis. But then not being afraid to use the dopamine button is what I call it in your programs. Now, a lot of people say, well, Marisa, is this even ethical? And I'm like, you know what? If you look at the stats on the average person spends 6.5 hours in front of a screen. They unlock their phone like 2,500 times in a single day. When you look at all of those stats, we're already hooked to this technology. Does that make sense? And so if you're there being like, come ride a camel with me in my program, I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, right? I can get all my the dopamine I want over here. So for me, it's about fighting fire with fire. Like if you want to stay relevant, you have to understand that our brains have already been completely rewired based on these devices. So if you try to do things the old-fashioned way and you're not recognizing that you're competing with the bings and the pings and the dings that are coming at us all over the place, it's like having your head in the sand. And so for me, it's the most ethical thing that you can do, because you're using technology, you're using tools, but you're using them to support our highest aspirations as humans. And I honestly think that our goals and aspirations need all the help they can get, because there's so many things in the world trying to knock us down. There's so many ways in which we're being stretched and challenged. So if I can leverage a little brain science here and hack the dopamine center of someone's brains, but to do it to support them in achieving their goals, I'm going to do that all day long. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like this is exactly what happens to anyone who really commits to something, whether it's getting fit, whether it's losing weight, whether it's passing your exams. We all know that there's certain ways of doing it, which is hard work, which we'll always avoid. And there's ways of doing it, which is fun, and which is a game, joining a sport, having to show up for others. And then suddenly it becomes so effortless because you're getting these same triggers. And this is where it gets really interesting, because, there's a fine line between a good habit and an addiction, right? And really, it's nothing about the way you're driven. Like you can have a good habit, like, good eating habits. It doesn't mean you're addicted to good food. It just means that you basically have habits which, number one, are either good for you, right? Or number two, good for the world or good for your community, versus addictions, which are also habits. They just happen to be bad for you, right? Or they happen to be bad for the world or bad for your community. And if you just basically look and say, well, am I even directing all of these tools into something which is fun, exciting, doesn't feel like hard work, but actually leads me to where I want to go? And most importantly, having those abilities to actually see, well, where is it I want to go? Like, what is my pathway? Which is why I love the fact you start with that epic meaning. You start with like your future vision of where you want to be, which we do very similar, right? Because at the end of the day, once someone gets that, it's mind-blowing how many people get that for the first time when they haven't even been focused at that for years, because there's no social media or even education system that teaches them that it's okay to be self-aware enough to know that you have your own path in life that you should be following as well, right? I love the way you're linking those together, and I'd love to kind of like link to the third part of this, which is what you've noticed when it comes to different personalities, right? And the fact that we have different people with different passions, purpose, and we're linking all of this to the Ikigai model, where it's like, if you can find out what your passion, your purpose, your talents are, and what your vocation is, like what is going to be not your work but your life's work, right? Then you can guide everything towards that. And the way that you have, there's a couple of links here that we're going to leave for people. You can share a bit about this as well. The dopamine button is your guide, and then this one here, which is online course creator archetype. Yeah, what have you learned about basically how different personalities even go about creating programs that work for them better from each other?
Yeah, well, first of all, the online course creator archetype is based on the Ikigai, of course, because we have so many similarities in the way that we approach and teach things. But for example, one of the course creator archetype is the artist who does what they love. They want to go after their passion, and that's based on whether it's the creator. It's also based on doing what you love in the Ikigai, all of that, right? Another course creator is the engineer. And the engineer is going to be based off of doing what can make money. They're more practical. A lot of times they might create, proprietary solutions, for example, right? They're going to be able to engineer something that works in a different way. So even understanding that there's so many different ways to get to a particular outcome, and then aligning the way that you deliver something with your natural approach. And there's also so many different personality types. So for example, I do a lot of crazy things and go all out and dress up and have props and have costumes, and people are like, yeah, Marisa, I'm just not like that. I said, well, it's okay, because you get to do you. And there's going to be other people who want that in the world. And so people choose their teachers, they choose their mentors. But I've had people apply this stuff to topics on recovering from violent trauma. Does that make sense? So even though you have a topic that might be serious, I've had people do it in all kinds of corporate fields as well. People still want to be engaged. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be fun. It's not a game in a lot of these scenarios. This is really serious stuff, but people want to feel engagement. They want to feel like they're making progress. And that's what it comes down to. If you get into the fun and excitement too, that's great if it's aligned with your topic, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So when it comes to gamification, one of the ways that we show people to do it is, in our Experientify software, which Yukai sits on the board of advisors, and he actually used Experientify, our software, for his courses too. So, and a lot of people are going that route, is that, when someone watches a training, you check it off and you get points, but checking it off is a kinesthetic action, right? So if you look at the different learning styles, someone's kinesthetically moving their mouse, right? Checking a little box. Then you hear like an auditory reward. A lot of times it could be singing bowls. It could be like, whoa, it could be cha-ching. It could be a guitar riff, whatever it happens to be. And by the way, you create Pavlovian conditioning for whatever sound that is, where people start to anticipate it. And they've told me that, right? And then you see a visual. So you see some kind of visual thing. A lot of times there's a counter that ticks upward. You can have animations and celebrations. We have a celebration builder, right? And then ultimately you get an emotional reward when all of that happens, because you're feeling like you're moving forward towards that mission, towards that epic calling in your life. And so you're actually validating at 4 different levels: the kinesthetic, the auditory, the visual, and the emotional. And when you understand there's also a lot of different kinds of intelligences. Sometimes people have body intelligence. So I've had people who are dancers and teaching dance, and their people couldn't sit down in front of a computer for an hour to learn something. Does that make sense? And they're like, I can't do a course because I can't sit still for an hour. Well, what makes you think that you have to sit still while doing a course? And maybe your audience of kinesthetic dancers who've got somatic body intelligence aren't going to want to sit still either. Right? So there's so many different ways when you understand different intelligences, different, wealth dynamics profiles, different, inclinations on the ikigai, whatever it happens to be, is that's why the world needs different teachers. The world needs different teachers for different learners, but also teachers that understand the different learning types and styles and can actually fit that in and get people into action. And it's also why experiential learning is so powerful, because, school learning is primarily dominant for like these really cognitive learners, right? But not a lot of people are just primarily cognitive learners. I've discovered that, and things that come easily to me don't come easily to another person. And so learning how to use stories, learning how to use experiences, learning how to just facilitate in different ways to capture all these different kinds of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I just really love the key distinction here, which is understanding that learning is an experience, right? It's not something you get from a book. And the more that everyone who is a creator is thinking in this way, that's not about the content that they're trying to get across, it's the way that it actually gets applied and used. And I just wanted to just share about this, but also for you to share about Experientify as well. So everyone just know that you've got the link to the dopamine button to get a free guide, and you've also got the link to just go do the online course. And of course, if you do that, you're going to be going down the pathway with Marisa as well, where you're going to basically see exactly how she goes about gamifying the things she's doing and turning it into an experience as well. What you and Murray put together, I remember you showing it to me several years ago, and it's super awesome, right? Like, so for everyone just to know as well that everything that Marisa is talking about has been built into a platform, which is called Experientify, and we'll give you the link to this as well. And it actually gives you the ability to build out your course using all of the different tools that we've just been talking about, right? And all of the kind of steps along the way as well. Do you want to just share how this has been adopted and you already were sharing a little bit in terms of the kind of results people were getting, but just basically how this is growing and how you'd like to see this grow in the next couple of years?
So this was actually, I started out as a course creator, and then none of the platforms for membership sites and course platforms did what I wanted to do. So we built it for ourselves and everyone wanted it. And then we finally decided to release it to the world. And now, Vimeo has 35,000 students on this platform. Jay Shetty's bringing his courses over. All of these people are bringing their courses over because it actually complements the way that they're teaching and the way that they're delivering. So I've already talked about points, but where it gets really interesting is what I call feedback loops. So feedback loops is when you can run custom email sequences, voicemail drops, text messages, even Facebook welcomes based on what people do or don't do in the platform. So one of my students, Jennifer Holbis, we go all out when someone's falling behind or they haven't logged onto the platform for a couple of weeks, and we kind of start ethically stalking them to get them back in because we want them to get engaged and we want them to do everything that we do. But she was going to drop out. She came back in. She earned $100,000 in the course and $150,000 within a few months after. So she went from nothing to $250,000 in her business because I ran a feedback loop when I noticed she was falling behind. Now she's invested over $60,000 as a customer with us, right? Another student, Michelle Bongiorno, who's been with us for 7 or 8 years as a learner, between what she's invested and the referral she's made, she's at over $198,000 to our company. So what I want you to see is that, a lot of people are trying to optimize traffic or whatever it is. That's great, but you can do so much more with less customers and less traffic by just implementing this. And it feels a lot better too. Also, your reputation. I've got 2,500 testimonials for a single online course because of every time someone crosses the finish line to mission accomplished, because we've positioned that as such an important thing, they submit a case study. And that's also part of the platform. Like, it's designed to capture that automatically. So then you have a wall of proof, a wall of testimonials, irrefutable evidence that you get people results. So these are all things that are baked into the platform. There's an animation generator, so you can create custom animations when people do certain things, when they hit a particularly tough lesson and overcome. You can kind of do like a levitating ninja or whatever you want. Lifting monkey. There's all these animations that you can because of that.
That's very cool. That's so cool. I want to share this with everyone because I'm going to be bringing on board Michelle, and I want to give Marisa a chance to. If there's anyone watching who is a course creator who isn't going to be motivated to actually look at these tools, and frankly, it's not just course creators. Anyone who is looking to build engagement, right, and to build a loyal following for whatever product that you're selling. All of this now is being integrated into all the different companies out there too. So just to let everyone know who might be watching this on YouTube, we have got our inner circle, which is called our Genius Metaversity Mastermind. And we have got, as I just showed you, a 3D version where everyone's in there playing the world game. You want to come join us, just use this link, just a QR code, and we'll also drop the link into the YouTube description as well. And come on over, have a conversation with us and see if what we're doing to build ourselves up to our stretch goal of 100 million students by the time we get to 2030, if you're going to be part of that, right? And part of the group of incredible people sharing their knowledge, which obviously includes Marisa here as well. We've also got incredible people who have won the Shine Awards this last month. And so we're going to be hearing about that in a moment as well. And that's going to be Michelle Knowlton, who leads all our partnerships, who is going to be sharing about that. But just before that, let's get Michelle on, because I'd love, Michelle, for you to just share, just listening in on what Marisa and I have been talking about, just your distinction, like knowing just how much everyone's looking for engagement, everyone's looking for the smartest ways to make their learning fun. How much you've learned from what you've heard here, and what's been kind of biggest highlight for you?
Thank you. And Marisa, thank you for sharing. For me, I think the thing, and you said it early on in the call, it was about that if you look after your customers, they stay and come back, right? And I think everything that you talked about through this period has been something that, like, for me, it resonates, like, in the deepest of your belly kind of thing. So anything that's in a space where you're serving and you're adding value to your customers, and they're coming back and they're learning and they want to be around you. And then I like the part about making sure that you're gamifying stuff and that you're actually monitoring when they fall off, right? And you're doing a whole path around that. So those were the things, Roger, that really stood out to me today.
That's very, very cool. And we're about to hand it over to you, Michelle, to go through the Shine Awards. But first, before we do that, Marisa, I'd love for you to share if there was just one or two kind of final words you'd want to leave with everyone here who may be finding if they've been going down this pathway, which is very much like this whole idea of like, information technology, this idea of like, information marketing, where they thought it was about trying to get content out, and they're kind of like going like crazy, just trying to get like posts out and hoping people will see them and so on. Just like what kind of things you'd say to give them a new lease of life, a new focus in terms of the incredible opportunity that's out there for anyone who decides to embrace the things we've been talking about here?
Well, what I've seen is that people will pay a premium. They will pay top dollar for results and experiences. And if you can create really engaging experiences that deliver results, even better. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is that you can have everything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And I think a lot of times as a business, people focus on, oh, I need to make money, I need customers, but simply switching around to how do I get people across the finish line to the biggest possible results that they want in their life in a way that nobody else is doing, that's going to change the game for you. And people do want to grow and evolve, but it involves broadening our concept of what an online course or group coaching program or digital product could be. And I think for the longest time, people in this industry have been trying to extract the most while giving the least. And what I find is that when you can give as much as you possibly can, it's not just let me, drink Mai Tais on a beach while I'm making money while I'm sleeping, versus how can I design experiences that are truly transformational? And maybe you need to actually wake up for some of those and actually deliver them and interact and engage with your customers. That's when things become life-changing. So I think the industry has gotten it wrong for a very long time, and it's been about fattening people's wallets versus really creating transformation. And when that happens, when you really focus on that, you get a reputation as the real deal, as someone who's actually delivering results, and you will be rewarded for it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Marisa, for being on and sharing your inspiration. And we'll now hand it over to Michelle. Thanks a lot, Marisa.
Could I just quickly say that dopamine button guide, it's that link that I gave, it's also attached to a workshop that I deliver once a year. I've already delivered it, but you can get the replay and watch it for a very limited time because I couldn't show all of my video clips and examples and things on this interview. So if you want to see real case studies and examples, just go to that liveyourmessage.com/genius workshop and you'll get the dopamine button guide, but you'll also get a series of workshops that I'm delivering right now that's available just once a year. So you might want to check it out.
Awesome. That's brilliant. All right. Thanks very much for that. All right, Michelle, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks, Roger. Have a great afternoon still. Bye. Okay, so back to me. And welcome. And we have our awards as always. So let me share my screen. And here we go. So these are our awards for October. Can you believe it? We have already hit to some amazing times here, the last quarter of the year. And as you know, there are always our Shine Awards, and we're designed to nominate for our partners, our communities, and our customers. And we've changed some of the prizes around a little bit for the last quarter of the year. So you can see these are the prizes. And nominations are as follows. So I have Karen Banana, Heidi, and Joseph. I also had one more, which I've obviously left off here. It was Glenn Thomas and his partner. So you'll see as they go off. Sorry, that's my mistake. So firstly, Karen, the reason that she's here is because she's actually a professional learning. She does professional learning for educators, and she's a Genius school educator and leader. And one of the things here is that she's been on the Genius Accelerator program for the last 12 weeks. And we did the graduation at the end of September. And really, it was one of the most amazing things to work with her, because she really contributes. She comes every week. She was super prepared. Her target revenue was $10,000. She came in with about 7,600. She just showed up. She stepped up. She followed advice. She always asked questions. And for me, it was that complete engagement. And her takeaway there was about the program kept her accountable. So it was realistic with her goals and addressing the different energies, which was good. So the next one is Heidi. Heidi Grimmer, actually, she's been running many different businesses over many years, but she's basically reinventing everything around her business and her life. And she's launched a new business called Genius Flow Mastery, Empower, Transform, and Grow. And what she did through the 12 weeks in the Genius Accelerator program was also redefine her 5 Ps and her avatars. And she came every week with more questions, implemented it, and she really learned a lot of things. And at the end, she's actually joined us as the city leader for Johannesburg. So I'm super excited about that, because that makes it my old haunt. And it's quite nice to reactivate the community in South Africa. And she really wants to expand her reach and create an impact with a couple of our other community members there. So you can see the feedback that she gave through the program. It was really around, activating her specific offers and getting her mind around what she wanted to do. So that was amazing there. Joseph, I love Joseph and his team. I've put his Shine team with there too, because ultimately, I just want to spotlight them. These guys, they are doing everything possible. They come to their meetings, they come to our BDM meetings, they're always prepared, they're continuously working for improvement. Joseph is on top of like technology. He's like built his own avatar. You can see AR avatar, you can click on the link, and that's that little picture below. For someone who speaks Czech, his English is pretty neat there. So for me, I've definitely added him in because him and his team are on the top of things, project management, but also doing everything possible to integrate AI into their businesses. And they're one of the partners that really is so humble, so important. They're just really, really active and really want to make a difference. So I really wanted to highlight them because I think that's a great idea. And the reason I, by mistake, left this off the nominations, I'll adjust the slides. Mary, just remind me. Glenn and David, definitely from Gold Survival Guide, they founded this business in 2009, and ultimately they joined us as partners, but they've also been working through Crystal Circle, and their business has really been thriving in that space. So the key achievement that they've done here is they've been focusing on increasing their PR and doing interviews and podcasts and stuff and raising the awareness of their brand. And this has led to one lead that has been in multiple six figures, while the transaction actual numbers have been lower in the last quarter with the trading and stuff like that. It's been these kind of things that have increased their sales from $15,000 a month to $43,000 a month. So I really wanted to acknowledge that they've followed principles, they're doing things, and it's really, really great to see them succeeding. All right, so, and the winner is, this month, the winner is Karen Banana. So I want to just acknowledge for that, and she's as amazing as always. So the team will be in contact with your awards, and we will see you very, very, very soon. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to the team, and we'll be passing back to Duncan.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Congratulations to Karen and all of the other nominees. Of course, some really wonderful things going on the partnership side here this quarter, as ever. Of course, a huge thank you to Marisa and to Roger. I did promise you a rather wonderful call there, didn't I, again? And I can also promise you that Roger has more amazing guests coming up for the rest of the year. So just left for me to thank you all very, very much for joining us here from wherever you are in the world. We will, of course, be sending out emails to Genius Metaversity members with the replays and the slides. And you can also catch the replay, I believe, over on Roger's YouTube channel. So do get over there and subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future. So once again, thank you very much to all of you for joining us. I hope you really, really got a lot from that call. And this is me, Duncan Stanley, saying goodbye from sunny Phu Quoc. Thank you all. Bye-bye.